For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News, Hualianceratops wucaiwanensis, new species of ceratopsian dinosaur discovered in China. An international team of paleontologists has discovered a new species of hornless ceratopsian dinosaur called Hualianceratops wucaiwanensis. This does look like a typical species of early ceratopsian. And for those of you that do not know, the ceratopsians were a group of horned dinosaurs that consisted of animals such as Triceratops. Though in the early stages of their evolution, they did not have frills or horns on their face. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Prehistoric News. Hit that subscribe button so we can dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day. So let's take a deeper look to what's occurring here. This new dinosaur was a distant cousin of the famed ceratopsian dinosaur Triceratops and lived early in the late Jurassic period, roughly 160 million years ago. According to a study published this week in the journal Plus One, the find is one of the oldest known of ceratopsians. Wow. So as I suspected, this animal existed at the very beginning of the ceratopsians' evolution, which was somewhere between 160 and 165 million years ago during the late Jurassic period. So I'm guessing this animal couldn't have been much more than 2 to 3 feet in length, or barely a meter. The remains of a Hualianceratops wucaiwanensis, a partial skull and foot, were collected from the Shishugu Formation of the Hunger Basin, northwestern China. Okay, so this seems like it's adjacent to this is situated within the Tibetan Plateau where this small ceratopsian was discovered. And despite its look, it's very likely that this animal was feeding on a wide range of different species of ferns. However, unlike its descendants, if this specific ceratopsian would lead on to the ceratopsians of the Cretaceous period, which wouldn't start for another 25 million years. Wait, this 160 million years ago. it would be another 15 million years. That at this point, flowers had not evolved yet, which its later descendants would have fed on. Like Triceratops, the new species was a plant eater, but it didn't have horns and was about the size of a spaniel. Hualianceratops wucaiwanensis walked on 2 legs and had ornamental texture on nearly all parts of the skull. Wow. Well, for the skull of most specimens of dinosaurs and many prehistoric animals, this is a fantastic find. It seems to be that certain parts of the molars, as you can see here, are quite intact. So this is good to see. Let's take a look at another individual from the Mesozoic, the Dryptosaurus. And this animal is much larger than what it appears.
Did
Unless
you
I'm
say Dryptosaurus?
unless it's Dryptosaurus. This species is not a relative of the Allosaurus. Now, this animal did exist around 165 million years ago during the Jurassic. However, this animal was found over in New Jersey. This was during the late 1860s. And prior to this point, carnivorous theropod dinosaurs had really only been discovered in Montana. So this was a fantastic find for that to occur. This animal could reach over 30 feet in length and probably weighs somewhere around 2 to 3 tons and was one of the earlier species of Tyrannosaur at this point. So this is a member of the Tyrannosaur species of the Tyrannosauroidea clade of Coelurosaurs. Coelurosaurs are the large group, for those of you that don't know, of theropod dinosaurs in which T Rex, Velociraptor, the Megaraptors all belong to. Now, it is very possible that Tyrannosaurs, such as Dryptosaurus, might have had feathers. We don't have any preserved skin of the animal at the moment, but it is very likely that this large carnivore, which also had arms quite similar to an extent of certain carnosaurs, such as the allosaurs. I mean, they are quite muscular and long for a tyrannosaur species, and it has very long claws compared to its body size. Most tyrannosaurs, they don't exhibit this large and muscular of arms. I do like this overall depiction. It seems very just matching with the overall length of its body. And despite this early stage in its evolution, it probably did have quite a robust bite compared to different members of the carnosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs. So let's head back to the article. Also, most likely, that meat eater was preying on smaller species of sauropod as well as even ornithopods in the area that it existed in within New Jersey. So the team, led by Professor Xu Xing from the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology in China, and Dr. James Clark from the George Washington University, discovered this dinosaur in the same part of the Shishugu Formation as Yinglong Downsi, the oldest known ceratopsian dinosaur. Finding these two species in the same fossil beds reveals there was more diversity there than we previously recognized. Additionally, the paleontologists studied the relationship between the newly discovered species and other ceratopsians through phylogenetic analysis. Yin Long, this is referring to a species of smaller theropod dinosaur from early Cretaceous China, which is interesting. The Yin Long existed within the region about 100, somewhere between 125 and 130 million years ago. So that is very interesting that they found this small species of ceratopsian, which lived much earlier in time, in the same region. It sounds. So let's head over to another species of Mesozoic animal. By the way, there's something I want to correct. I was far off on the age that this animal existed. It was hitting me. I confused this with the next animal. This animal actually existed at the very end of the Cretaceous, around 67 million years ago. During the late Jurassic,
What did you
Tyrannosaurs,
say?
I've said the early or the late Jurassic, around like 160 million years ago, 165 million years ago. In reality, Tyrannosaurs at that point were very small, not usually reaching much more than 8 to 11 feet in length. You had animals such as Guanlong, Dilong, Proceratosaurus, maybe not really exceeding much more than 300 to 400 pounds or a little over what's 200 kilograms. So this animal existed over in New Jersey at the end of the Cretaceous. So, the next animal, this animal did inhabit Cambridgeshire over in eastern England around 165 million years ago during the late Jurassic. This is a relative of the North American Stegosaurus. This is like Zovosaurus, however, which does possess certain Kentrosaur-like traits, such which is means that it's shares mutations like the Kentrosaurus. But that animal existed in an entirely different ecosystem within the Jurassic. And it looks like here it's probably competing, well, not competing with, fighting off an early relative of the Allosaurus europus that would have existed in this region. Now, at this point, Europe was also a series of islands. You still would have had certain species of sauropods that could reach somewhere between 15 to 20 tons in weight. But this animal was probably not much more than 20 feet or around 6 meters and probably weighed around 2.5 tons. So, for an island dinosaur, it's a decent size or one of the medium sized species within the area. Oh, actually, you know who this might be? It's still a relative of the Allosaurus, but it's a bit further off on the family tree, especially when referring to the Carnosaur lineage of dinosaurs, which, if you do not know what the Carnosaurs are, this is a larger family of predatory dinosaurs compared to the Coelurosaurs that would have consisted of carnivores such as Allosaurus, Spinosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, and many other species. There seems to be either those or its babies or maybe something related to Compsognathus, which was a smaller species of Coelurosaur. But who knows? This is interesting. They're showing these stegosaurs within a small family group, which is highly plausible. Some instances, stegosaurs can be depicted as living in large groups, but when it comes to animals such as the North American stegosaurs, they tend to be portrayed as solitary, despite stegosaurs not exactly being uncommon or an uncommon discovery within North America compared to certain other species of dinosaurs. Let's head back to the article. The phylogeny and the earliest late Jurassic age of Yinlong and Hualianceratops imply that at least five ceratopsian lineages Yinlong. Oh, am I confusing him with another species of a species of theropod? Maybe I'm thinking of Yanglong. Anyway, Hualianceratops, Chuyangosaurus, and Schwanhoceratops, Psittacosaurus, and Neoceratopsia. Whoa. Okay, maybe I'm not, or the writer is confusing Yinlong with Ceratopsian because Psittacosaurus was not existing during the late Jurassic. It would not pop up. It would not evolve until somewhere around 112 million years ago, towards the end of the early Cretaceous. So this is a bit off. The beginning of the late Jurassic is somewhere around 160, 165 million years ago. You still had different species of early ceratopsia, but definitely not Stegosaurus. So let's head over to the final animal. This individual is a bit less talked about. Now, technically, the other two that I mentioned are rarely seen as well. But this is a Brictosaurus, which existed in Lesotho, or um, certain parts of eastern South Africa, maybe even Eswatini, or also known as Swaziland, around 197 million years ago at the beginning of the early Jurassic. So this is around the time that a large clade of dinosaurs, technically the largest clade adjacent to the Saurischia. So for those of you that don't know, there are two different lineages of dinosaurs. There are the Saurischians that contain animals such as T Rex and Brachiosaurus. And then there are the Ornithischians, which contain animals such as Triceratops, Stegosaurus, and the Abrictosaurus. So the Abrictosaurus also belong to a family of ornithischian dinosaurs called the Heterodontosaurs, which were quite successful. The Heterodontosaurs would flourish all the way up into the early Cretaceous period, around 145 million years ago, but first evolving around 200 million years ago, right after the Triassic mass extinction. So Abrictosaurus lived in Lesotho or even South Africa around 197 million years ago, and was about 4 feet in length, or maybe 1.2 meters, and weighed up to 100 pounds, or a little over 45 kilograms, and was likely feeding on different species of ferns within the region, maybe even young conifer trees, despite it looking like it has a carnivorous sort of feeding behavior, which was originally presumed for this lineage of animals. The Abrictosaurus does not display it, but many species of Heterodontosaur would exhibit, kind of like in this image, a or very distinct canine teeth, which you do not see in most other species of dinosaurs. Doesn't matter whether you're looking at certain species of theropods, in this case, the Ornithischians, they're very unique. They also have quite long arms compared to their body size, but it's likely that these animals were mainly bipedal, so only walking on two legs. Maybe they use their arms for digging. It is a very big question. So, let me know what your favorite species of small dinosaur is. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.